All right, everyone, welcome back into another props video. Gonna be touching on the top prop bets for both PrizePicks and Underdog today, putting an emphasis on the NBA, but also touching on NHL and then also the college football national championship. But first, I do want to get into a quick recap of yesterday. Kind of had a bad beat, and so yesterday did continue a nice little stretch that we are on over the past 4 days. All 4 have been profitable. The Flex Friday slip hit, which was nice. We had one NFL prop on Saturday that we were waiting on there. Also had an Underdog Flex slip hit. So like pretty darn good stuff. I mean, basically last week went exactly how you would expect a week in props betting to go, where you're chasing these good EV bets. Gonna have some misses, gonna have some hits, but I do want to concentrate on this one because on Saturday's slip we had a big edge, had a lot of bet slips hit. It was a huge day. And then on Sunday I kind of recapped for you guys. Well, it felt very good to finally add these 6 for 6 slips hits where there wasn't a bad beat, where probably got lucky on a couple of slips. And then yesterday it happens, like literally the next day. Romeo Doubs, don't get me wrong, having the reboot for Doubs is awesome. Like that's a great feature that PrizePicks has, especially over other sports books and whatnot. But man, that's a bad beat. When every other receiver for the Packers that got significant playing time had over 8 for a fantasy score, which is what his prop line was set at, that's a bad beat. It really is. Bo Melton, who is essentially the role that Romeo Doubs would have been playing in, he had like 12 fantasy. So that felt like a bad beat, but all in all, can't complain about a good day, can't complain about a good week. Hopefully we can continue that into this. And now that being said, guys, like this board that we have today is a pretty limited board, I will say. Like NHL wise, we're getting 2 pretty good EV bets. That is basically it right now. That's kind of my issue with today's slate. On PrizePicks, that is, at least we take a peek at Underdog. Really not any edges there. We got one prop bet there that we can see. Shots on goal, Travis for under at 3.5. We can see PrizePicks has already bumped that down. But yeah, very tight board on a Monday. I mean, that is typically speaking the case. Like that, we see this time and time again. Referring back to last week where it was Sunday, Saturday, Friday, Thursday, a profit, and then Tuesday as well. Well, you can figure out which days weren't. Monday was one of them, and that's typically because the board is just a tighter board for the most part. Looking at it, I don't mind the shots on goal prop for Ross Colton here. 1.5, we can see the projection data would have it set at 2. That's a slight edge that I see there, but all in all, probably feels like we'd be forcing it in there. So let's go and take a peek at the college football props as well, just to see if we're getting any better ones from what we had yesterday, and then I'll begin to NBA. So guys, for the most part, it's going to be exactly the same as it was yesterday. We got a couple, we got this receptions prop that's being favored as a push. I don't mind this one for Rome for over his receptions. We can see there are some discrepancies there. The projection data would have it set at 5.5. The average sportsbook line would have it set at 6.6, and they'd be kind of favoring it as a push. So Underdog currently has that line at 6.5. PrizePicks currently has it set at 6. I feel pretty good about that one because I feel like that line that we were getting there is being valued as a push. It's being valued that he's going to get to 6. And obviously this game is a fun game. I kind of want to be betting the overs. I know the public wants to be betting the overs as well. That was kind of my whole college football video yesterday, is that we were getting some pretty big prop line differences, and we're not now. We kind of lost those edges, but it was definitely interesting there. But that was kind of the message, is that Underdog was favoring the unders, where PrizePicks was favoring the overs, but the average sportsbook line was saying something else. But you can tell the public wanted to be betting the overs there. Let's go and take a peek at Underdog. Again, we're probably not getting as big of an edge here as we were yesterday, but we'll take a peek. And no, basically about the same. We got the Jack West over for over his receiving yards. That's still a decent bet. That's really the best one that we have on the board. And I don't mind Polk for over his receiving yards as well. Again, that's a decent bet there in Underdog, but all in all, a tighter slip. So let's go ahead and take a peek at basketball today. We're not going to get, I don't think, any college basketball props, just as an FYI. It's a very limited board today. And personally, I don't think we would want to be betting on this anyways. So I do want to call before we get started that we are not getting any fantasy score props for NBA just yet. Typically speaking, those are the ones that I like to concentrate on the most, because that's going to provide you guys the longest edge for the longest amount of time throughout the day. All in all, we got a decent amount of props, so we can touch on it. So I do want to start with taking a peek at the injury report for today. I do think calling out Indianapolis's, why did I say that? Indiana Pacers, sorry. Bruce Brown, Andrew Nembhard, if they are out, that could be something that's worthwhile to monitor. I don't think they're both going to be out, but if they were, I think we'd be looking at Benedict Mathurin to have a good game. Again, that's pure speculation. Looking at Boston, obviously, if Tatum or Porzingis sits, that's going to open up a lot of value. Basically, it's Derek White that gets a big bump, but also you have Sam Hauser potentially sitting as well. That could create a lot of minutes available for Boston. That would mean probably Derek White would get a little bit more run. Maybe even Drew Holiday slightly gets more run. But Al Horford would also be someone that would benefit as well. Again, I don't want to speculate on that too much. We're not really getting prop bets for that. Looking at the Bulls, they did get back Vucevic. They did get back Levine. Need to get an update on the minutes for them. Okay, Vucevic is expected to start this game. His first game back, he did not start. Andre Drummond still continued to start. So definitely something we need to monitor. Looking at Charlotte, they are still pretty banged up, guys. They're going to be without PJ Washington, who's a high usage rate player when he's on the court, but they got Terry Rozier back. You also have Mark Williams out, so Nick Richards is going to start at center, and then you have Gordon Hayward as well. So definitely something to monitor there. Looking at Houston, Dylan Brooks and Tari Eason being out, I do think it's significant. We're going to see Jabari Smith and Jayshawn Tate get a little bit of a bump in usage, but we have seen Jalen Green actually does benefit a decent amount with those two players off the court, so we'll take a peek at that. Jimmy Butler is out for Miami, and then also the big news here, Damian Lillard is out, but as well, we got Cameron Payne out, so we'll touch on that. And then looking at Phoenix, they're going to be without Bobo. They're going to be without Eric Gordon. So a lot to break down. Let's go in and get into it. But first, let's start with just showing you guys the board that we have here. So you can see we really aren't getting any good lines right now, EV betting wise. And so again, it's a tighter slate, I should say. So there's not much there. In simple, there's not much there today on both sides. We look at Underdog. It's a little bit better, I will say, but these ones right here, the turnovers props, those are all being favored as pushers. Typically, I don't like to target props that are going to be pushed. It's basically saying they're going to get over 2 turnovers, but it's not likely that they get, or sorry, they're going to get over 1.5 turnovers, these guys, but they're not going to get over. And so the better bet would be the under, because obviously if the lines thought that they would be 2 more so, or have a chance to get over 2, I should say, they would just put the line at 2.5 and then favor the under. But yeah, looking at, we are getting some Bucks props on both sides, so I want to start with those. We are seeing Brook Lopez here could potentially be a very good prop bet for us. And so what I want to do is I want to take a peek at the Bucks production, guys, with Damian Lillard off the court. We can take a peek at Brook Lopez, but let's just take a peek at everyone. So the matchup with Utah, like, you look at the opponent rank, it is more difficult for centers, but I don't know, I don't really see it that way. They've had a different kind of lineup basically every single week, so it's tough to really gauge whether or not they're that strong defensively, or kind of what group is going to be that strong defensively. But looking at it, guys, Cam Payne is actually the person that gets the biggest bump with Lillard off the court. That makes sense, but with Cam Payne being out again, that is something that really does make it more difficult, I'll say, but we can kind of get an idea. Like, it's a very small sample size, so that's why I'm not going to include it in there, but I would expect like Marjon Beauchamp to probably get a lot of run in this game with those 2 players off the court. Malik Beasley's probably going to get a healthy share of run, but all in all, that it's going to make the sample size more difficult, just so you guys know. So I'm just going to be looking at it with Damian Lillard off the court and not Cam Payne. So the player that benefits the most after that is actually going to be Bobby Portis. The issue with Bobby Portis is that his minutes have really not been there. If we could lock in 25 minutes, I'd probably feel pretty good about him as a play. His per 36 production is like 20 points, 10 rebounds. Again, he's not going to get that, but you know, he's probably going to get above his average of 12.1 points and his average of 12.7 or 6.7 rebounds. Like, that is something we can bank on. All in all, I don't know if we want to touch on him. Let's get into Brook Lopez. Like, keep teasing this. Let's get into it. So looking at Lopez, his per 36 production with Lillard off the court, it really doesn't change much. You know, only averaging 14.5 points, a slight uptick there, and then about 5.9 rebounds. But that's his per 36. Not every game is he going to get 36 minutes. This is a game that does have the potential to blow out as well. Now, a little bit less likely with Lillard off the court, but I do think there is something there with Brook. I think we're getting a small edge there. And then looking at Giannis, guys, in terms of usage, Giannis gets a 3.8% bump, which is a decent amount for him. His use rate goes up to 36.3 with Damian Lillard off the court. And now his per 36 production might actually be a little bit too low, considering the fact that he has consistently been getting over that. Again, assuming the game stays close. Looking at Giannis's production, it is 33.9 points per 36, so about 34 we can say. 10.7 rebounds, so actually that's a little bit lower. 6.7 assists, so that goes up, and then averages 3 blocks and steals per 30. So again, that number is going to go up slightly. And so for me, I'm looking at the lines that we're getting. Definitely interesting here. I find it interesting that Underdog has his assist line set at 7. Again, the per 36 production would say 7. And I find it interesting that PrizePicks has it bumped to 7.5. Like, I would say 7 is the correct line there. Points, you know, I would almost rather bet the under on PrizePicks at 36.5. Again, his per 36 production with Lillard off the court is 34 fantasy points per 36. Can he get an extra one? Sure. I'm looking at this and it might just be a stay away. Like, the only one I would really want to do is this right here. But really, I would argue the best prop bet that we have would be Giannis to get a triple double tonight. Just assuming that gets a slight uptick in his usage. Obviously, that's the biggest edge. Add on a couple more assists. Maybe he chases the triple double a little bit. But it seems like the player that we might get the biggest edge on is going to be Chris Middleton. So Chris Middleton gets the biggest bump in usage by any player, goes up in terms of players that are getting significant. Goes up by 13% to about 33%. That's already huge. Averages 6.9 points more per 30. Now, I do want to call it the issue with Middleton when we're looking at per 36 numbers is that he's typically going to get 33 minutes. They've basically been capping him at that. So we have to adjust. But all in all, his per 36 production is 25.3 points, 5.5 rebounds, 7.6 assists. So just looking at it from an underdog perspective, and again, the lines for PrizePicks are the exact same, so it doesn't really matter. He should really be able to crush this. Like, he should be able to get his over points, rebounds, and assists just on points and assists. The points line that we are getting, I think, is a pretty big edge there. Personally, I'm probably going to be betting that over, and I know it's not a good easy bet. I know the projection data isn't saying that, but all in all, that is a pretty darn good bet that we are getting. Now, again, we haven't really seen this too much with Payne and Lillard being out. My expectation is, though, that, and the data thinks so as well, that Middleton's going to be the player that gets the biggest usage bump. And so I do like this one. And then I do just want to take a peek at a couple of the Houston props that we are getting just to see. So Jabari Smith, over 1.5 threes, I can get behind. He's going to get the shot attempts up again with Tari Eason and also Dylan Brooks off the court. That should be a good one. This one is interesting for Jalen Green. He's going to shoot a lot of three balls. It's just whether or not he makes them. The data is suggesting that he doesn't make them tonight. Again, he's someone that does get a usage bump with those two players off the court. But just the fact that we can lock in the minutes for Jabari Smith, that's encouraging. And so I could argue that the three balls for him is pretty good. Jalen Green, the points prop is going to be decent as well. Again, with Dylan Brooks and Tari Eason off the court, he does get a pretty big bump in usage. All in all, I feel like that's a little bit too thin on tonight's slate, but if you guys like those, I wouldn't discourage it. And then I want to see if we're getting any Boston props. I bet it's only Tatum, and that makes sense. So yeah, we're only getting Tatum props for Boston because, well, if he plays, these are going to be his lines. If he sits, that's going to shift the lines for everyone else. So very tight board right now for NBA. Just want to call that out. All in all, I think we have some slight edges, but all in all, we're going to be waiting on the Boston news and we're going to be waiting on the fantasy score props. But let's go on and give you guys a bet of the day today for both sites. Well, probably just, well, we can do both sites. We'll give you guys both. All right, guys. So getting into the bet of the day for Underdog, this is a flex and trade slip, just so everyone knows that technically what you're supposed to do. This is the best bet that we currently have on the board right now. Again, very limited board. I don't particularly love the bets that we are getting right now on both. Jabari Smith Jr. for over 1.5 threes is a good one. He's going to get about 5 3-ball attempts. Just needs to make 2 of those, right? That's a decent one. Again, with Tari Eason and Dylan Brooks off the court, he should be able to get there. Still, that's only about a 53.5% chance. I mentioned Saturday slate, like that was the big edge. We were getting like 20 great bets on paper. Today we're getting 2 on both sites, just so we're very clear there. That's the issue with today, is that on paper we're just not getting that many great bets. I do like Michael Penix. I do think he's going to have a good game. Everyone in my comment section of the college football video is saying that Michael Penix is going to go off. And I'm like, I agree, guys. It's not my fault that the data is telling us to do the opposite, especially on PrizePicks where they seem to be overvaluing them. Like, it's just is what it is. Like, again, I feel like with Washington being undervalued as much as they are, now it's not as much as it was on the last slate, but I still think that there's an edge, or sorry, on yesterday when I did the video, the edge has been reduced because Underdog has kind of bumped their lines a little bit, but I still think that there's an edge on Washington if you think they're going to go off. So Michael Penix for over fantasy score is one that makes sense mostly on Underdog. And again, this line is at 22.5 on PrizePicks. So slight edge there. This is one that's popping up right now. Grady Gross for under his kicking score. I don't know if you guys want to use that. You can. I would say these two probably do correlate a little bit where they're not settling for field goals. So thus Penix is going to be scoring more. I think that makes sense. Maybe they have to go for 2 and whatnot. And then Rome for under his receptions. Now, personally, I would rather bet his over 6 receptions on PrizePicks, but unfortunately on PrizePicks, I'll show you guys that slip. That's not the best bet on paper. On paper, the best bet that we are getting for him is going to be under 97.5 receiving yards. Again, the average sportsbook line would have this set at 90. So again, if you think Washington's going to have a good game, by all means, you don't need to touch it. I get it. I'm just telling you guys what the best bets are currently, and that's the best bet. I personally, though, do like Chris Middleton get over his fantasy score. That is a personal bet of mine. I think he's currently being undervalued because I think he's going to get 33 minutes. And if you look at his per 36 production with Damian Lillard off the court, he averages about 24 points per 36. So yeah, sure, he dropped that down a little bit. He should still be able to get over 19.5 points. And then this is one that is decent, about a 53% chance to hit. The projection data also likes him to get the over. So I'm okay with that one. And then again, this is currently one of the better bets, so I'm just going to roll with it. Just a reminder, if you guys do use the Underdog bet slip and you haven't signed up for it before, just sign up using the promo code 925. They'll give you a 100% match on deposit up to $100. Thank you guys for watching. That is going to be all for today's video. Again, lighter day today. It's a Monday, not the best board. Just want to end with that, just so you guys know. But thank you guys for watching. If you guys want access to the 905sports.com PrizePicks and Underdog cheat sheet, head on over to 905sports.com. It's available for $10 a month. Thanks for watching. Let's have a good slate. And as always, let's keep cashing.